thing that you would see there a lot of times in the middle of most lineups. But the Dodgers were so stacked on one side of the plate tonight that I think he got into a great rhythm early. He was in complete control. I mean, we had a couple deep fly balls and a line out to Starlin Castro there in the 8th inning, and that was about it. Just not a lot of, hard contact. I talk about it with him all the time, but more times than not, I feel like I've abused the key too much talking about Jake. Bad contact. I mean, most teams don't square him up regularly, but what I saw tonight from the Dodger hitters was just indecisiveness. I mean, not being able to pick a pitch and sit on it and then look for it and try to execute a good swing or, go through your game plan. I mean, there was almost just a high level of uncertainty from beginning to end, and that's Jake in complete control, throwing what he wants, when he wants. I just tweeted something out. It was along the lines of, I think Jake could have told most of these hitters what was coming tonight, and we still might be talking about the same result.
It was that good. Well, Todd, one more thing. I know a lot of people have asked, even Joe Madden this year. It was only a few years ago that this guy's in Baltimore and really not figuring out how to find that next level. And now here he is throwing a no-hitter against the Dodgers. What's been the biggest difference in that growth for him?
Well, consistency, no doubt about it. I haven't had a long conversation with Jake in any way about it. But, I mean, the one thing that I've seen from Jake, who he was in Baltimore, mechanically speaking, I mean, if you watch this start today, I mean, there might be 2 pitches that were off, in what did he throw, 115 pitches tonight, I think it was there at the end. But, 2 pitches that were outside the zone that might have gotten out of his hand just a little bit. I think he got around a curveball there in the 9th inning, and that was about it. He is so consistent with his mechanics. He's so unfazed by what's going on. We watch him, even when he gets some traffic out there on bases, not even talking about tonight, his rhythm, nothing in the game seems to break him of his focus. And listen to John Kruk talk about it during the ballgame. That's a scary sight for a guy. I mean, he's just so locked in right now in executing the sequence of pitches that he wants to execute against a particular hitter, whatever the circumstances may be, and he just goes out there and performs along those lines. I mean, you hear how very deliberate his workout routine is, how specific it is, and how he sticks to it in his workout regime leading up to a game. I mean, he's just very, very scripted in everything that, he's been doing, and it's been able to kind of keep him in a great routine that sets you up for success as a hitter. We talk about this all the time. You get into that routine. I mean, eating chicken sandwiches for lunch, keep eating chicken sandwiches for lunch. I think Jake's just in that spot right now where he knows where his arm slot needs to be every time he steps out on the mound. I mean, has there been a time this year really where he's gotten out of whack? I can't think of one.
No, you're absolutely right, and all of that paying off tonight. Todd Hollinsworth, our Cubs pre- and post-game analyst, chiming in on Jake Arrieta's first career no-hitter. Thanks so much for your time, Todd.
Anytime. Good night.
Well, you heard him. I mean, the routine, everything, it's been leading up to this. And Jake Arrieta, I can't imagine the celebration that they have after most wins tonight in that L.A. clubhouse. They're having a blast.
And we're going to show it later. They're going to wear pajamas coming home. This is something that Joe Madden had planned, saying that, we're going to have fun going back on the long 4-hour flight from L.A. to Chicago. And getting back to Jake Arrieta, even though he's pitching with the Baltimore Orioles, he started an opening day game in Baltimore. Opposing hitters have always said Jake Arrieta has stuff that it just baffles you. There's nothing you can do against it. But it was a question like Holly said. He had to manage to harness it, be more consistent from start to start. And when you think of the trade that Theo Epstein made to get him from Baltimore, they got Arrieta and Pedro Strop for Scott Feldman, who's a decent pitcher, but the Orioles had him for a half a season. The Cubs get back Arrieta and Strop, who's their key setup man. But for Jake, it was never a question of ability. It's just a question of focus. And it seems right now, when you talk about the best pitchers in baseball, he certainly belongs in that group. When you talk about the Dodgers, they've got a good lineup. They also have a manager, Don Mattingly, who was a pretty fair hitter in his own right during his time with the New York Yankees. Let's take you out to Dodger Stadium, hear what Don Mattingly had to say about Jake Arrieta no-hitting his team tonight.
Today just kind of feel more like one of those situations where you just kind of have to tip your hat to the other way.
It does for me. You can't say your at-bats were bad. This guy was, to me, his stuff was really good tonight. It's really good all the time, but it was really good tonight. And I think you do have to tip your cap and really just look at it as at that point, that's what it was. A lot of good things happened for us. After Alex gives up the homer in the first, he kind of settles down. After 3, I think he was 70-something. That thing could have been a little bit of a disaster for us as far as having to use too many guys today. He hung in there. Everybody came in and got their outs, did a nice job of keeping the game right there and giving us a chance. And I think even going into that inning, it was more of, hey, let's get a runner. You got a chance to win a game. So you're not really thinking about what that guy's doing. It's more about getting a guy on base and giving yourself a chance to win a game.
The hit, the error on Kike, is that an error or should that have been a hit?
That's whoever's interpretation, but I think at this point it doesn't change the game in any way. There's no reason to talk about it and try to ruin anything that Jake was able to do tonight. So I think it's just a kind of a moot point. Again, it didn't change the game at all.
That's the kind of call, though, that you've accused us of thinking the game is easy.
Well, whatever. I mean, if you really want to know my opinion, I think it's a hit. But at this point, you get beat and you get no hit. You're not going to complain about it after the game. It didn't change the game any.
How bad is Kike's leg?
I'm not sure. I think he felt some tightness. I'm hoping it's not bad. Check on him. I didn't get a report before I came in.
Do you look ahead, and in other sports like football, they talk about looking ahead to the next opponent, to the Giants. Is that possible in this situation where you're looking ahead to a Giants team, or
no, I don't think.
You already know that they lost and that sort of thing?
No, I think you get your hands full coming into this game, and really we've won 2 games in the series, and you got a chance to sweep the series. And I think that's the way you look at it. Again, we're talked about this so many times. This time of year, you're trying to win a game tonight. You don't have the opportunity. You try to take advantage of every chance you get to add on. So we had a chance tonight if we were able to win to add on a game. We weren't able to do it.
Just considering it all, that you guys were no hit twice in 9 days spent.
I would say yes. The last one bothered me more. I thought we got out of the strike zone way too much. Didn't feel like we were really ready to play. Tonight, I don't think it didn't feel like that at all. I felt like we were in the game all night. Our guys did a good job. I know we're battling. Guys, again, we started out with you got to tip your cap.
Is that something you let them know afterwards, insofar as the way they should take in the game?
We got pros. I don't have to. I'm not in the league coach where I got to go pump them up now or anything else. This is the big leagues. Guys know where we're at.
Obviously, kind of a less than ideal game to have to go in for the biggest series of the year.
Yeah. Well.
Any concerns about that?
No. Not really. I think you move forward. At this point, again, you tip your cap. The guy you got beat by tonight had really good stuff, and we couldn't do anything with him. Would it matter if we got 3 hit shutout? I don't think it changes anything. We didn't win a game tonight. That's what it's about. Again, it doesn't feel nothing like the one in Houston to me. One in Houston felt like just weren't really ready to play.
How did Wood look? I know he had the shaky start, but he was able to finish 6.
He hung in. That's the way it looked to me. He kept pitching. And that's one thing that Alex does. He don't ever stop pitching. He'll keep battling. And, again, give up those 2 runs early. I know he's trying to go away. I think the ball cut on him a little bit. But from there, I think it's 72 after 3. And he hangs in there and gives us 6 innings. So, pretty good.
Was it hamstring for Kike, that tightness? Yeah.
It sounded like it, yes. That's what Stan said.
Don Mattingly referencing a game against Houston recently. Yes. They were no-hit by Mike Fiers of the Astros 9 days ago. To get no-hit twice in 10 days is pretty tough for any major league team to handle. But his comments were very reminiscent of what we heard from the Cubs when Cole Hamels threw the no-hitter at them last month.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I love hearing. You don't have to fire those guys up. They're major league ball players. Right. And sometimes you run up against, as Madden would say, a pitcher who just is unstoppable. And that's what Cole Hamels was on that day, and that is easily what Jake Arrieta was on this night.
Yeah, the Dodgers will play their big division rivals, the Giants, tomorrow, and the Giants now 5.5 games behind the Cubs after that no-hit effort by Arrieta. We're now going to be joined by a very special guest, the Hall of Famer, Fergie Jenkins, kind enough to join us this evening. Fergie, you had outstanding stuff during your career, but when you watch Jake Arrieta, do you sometimes feel almost envious if you had been able to carry that stuff to the mound every time out?
Well, this young man's got great stuff, and I predicted this year he'd probably win 15-plus games, but now he's got his 17th win. I mean, he's got a very opportunist time to win 20 games. I think he's the horse of that ball club, and he's really pitched well this year.
Fergie, you pitched in the golden age of pitching, really. You think about Bob Gibson and Juan Marichal and so many great guys. When you look at modern-day pitchers, is Arrieta among the best in the current game?
Oh, he's done really well. Him and Coles and David Price. There's been a number of guys that have really come forward and really proven that at the age of pitching is not lost. And I think that's a very important part of the game, because if a team is going to win and propel itself in the league they're in, they have to have a horse, and one of the guys have to step forward, and Arrieta has been one of those guys.
When a pitcher has his A-game stuff, think back to your playing career, do you almost feel like there's no way a guy's going to get a hit off you, or does it take an element of luck to carry what Jake Arrieta did tonight?
You know what happens in a game? You feel the game from the first inning on, and it carries on through 7, 8, and 9 innings, and you feel that electricity. You just know that you've got that A game going, and that's what it takes to win. And he's proven that over the last couple of starts he's had. He's had his A game going, and people cannot they can't get hits against him. He's proven that he's the top pitcher in the league.
Almost unhittable in August, something like 6-0 with an ERA under a half a run a game. How important has Jake Arrieta been to really stabilizing this Cubs ship? They had that great run where they won 21 out of 25, but then they had a 4-game losing streak coming into tonight's game. How important is it for your stopper to pitch a game like this and get everyone feeling like we have what it takes to make a playoff run now?
Well, as you said, he's a stopper. When you have a losing streak, when his turn to pitch, he proves that he can right the ship, and I think that's a big plus. If you can get a guy that can come through and win for you when the team is not playing well, he is your horse, and you look forward to having him go to the mound, and that's what it's all about.
Fergie, you've watched this Cubs team all season long. What's your impression on the job that Joe Maddon has done? And do you think if and when they get to October and a possible playoff appearance, will they be ready for the pressure of that moment?
I think that he's motivated the ball club. They've got so many guys that have really done well. Russell's played well, along with Rizzo and Bryant and guys in the pitching staff. And I think that they pulled together. I mean, winning together is very important late in the season, and the month of September is so important. You don't want to have a slump. You want to have the team on the top side of what you're doing, and you play your division in the last 30, 40 games a lot of times, and that's very important, and I think that's proven to be the opportunity to win that division, and the Cubs are doing it, and I think they've got a great opportunity to win that wild card division, and this is something very important for them.
Fergie, before I let you go, I'm curious, do you get nervous at all watching a guy trying to finish off a no-hitter because you've been on the mound so many times in high-pressure situations?
You know, I think they've got the game going in their favor, even though the guys behind them don't want to make a bad situation or a bad error or make something that's going to lose the no-hitter for them. But you go out there with the intention of pitching the no-hitter. And I think that's a big plus. And the guys play hard, and that's what it's all about. And I'm happy for them.
That is the Hall of Famer Fergie Jenkins. Fergie, thank you so much for joining us. A chance to witness the baseball history at Dodger Stadium tonight. The 14th franchise no-hitter turned in by Jake Arrieta. A totally dominant effort. Only one walk allowed in that ball game. You're looking at a live shot of the media room at Dodger Stadium. As soon as Jake Arrieta makes his way to the podium, we will bring you that coverage here on SportsNet Central. We're going to take a quick timeout, and we'll be right back.
We're going to keep going, actually, because this has been such an incredible evening. We're going to take a look at what Jake Arrieta has done up to this point. You've heard Mark mentioning how consistent he's been. Fergie Jenkins talking about it from the start of the season. This was his 14th straight quality start, a perfect 6-0 in the month of August, 11-1, a 1.07 on the year. It's almost laughable, Mark, that this is the same guy that's now in Cy Young conversations that wasn't invited to the All-Star game. Like, are we for real?
Well, I remember early in the season he wasn't getting a lot of run support. There were a couple of games where the bullpen let him down, couldn't protect late inning leads, so he didn't have the win total that you'd normally associate with an all-star pitcher. But really, win is becoming less and less important stat as we progress in Major League Baseball. And when you look at the advanced analytics on the job that Jake has done, I mean, it's just incredible to watch the fact that he's able to keep, opposing hitters off guard the way he does. So we're going to get back out to Los Angeles. Joe Madden getting ready to make his way to the podium.
Just project the Cubs back up there.
You have to get the little bit about the Castro play.
Yeah, I mean, it was right at him. It's a tough call. It's a tough call, but it's right at him. And I don't think the scorekeeper didn't even flinch or hesitate. It immediately came up as an error. So I give the guy credit, their guy here, for, trying to do the right thing in that situation. So, yeah, it was right at him. It was hit well, but right at him.
And Jake's probably your next scorer.
Well, the thing with Jake, for the folks that have not seen enough of him, I mean, he has that kind of stuff nightly. It's really crazy. It's just the ball looks like a wiffle ball even from the side. I mean, you can see the break on the slider, the cutter, and the curveball. It's just right now he's pitching on a different level regarding velocity and movement, and he deserves it. I mean, if you watch this guy work, I don't think I've ever seen anybody work any harder. He has come a long way from Baltimore, where he really had command issues with the fastball, but always had good stuff. So I figured out his delivery. And you got to give, of course, the credit always goes to the player himself. It goes to Jake, absolutely. But I really believe Boz and Lester Strode and Mike Barzell have done a wonderful job in prepping him for this moment. It doesn't surprise. For those that are around him all the time, it's not surprising at all. But it's a combination of Jake's skill, his drive, who he is, combined with some really awesome and detailed instruction from Chris Bosio, and Mike Borzello, and Lester Strode. And I give Miggy credit, too. The catcher has a big part of that moment, too, and I know that's something as a catcher you never forget. I think Miggy, I know Miggy was on the winning side against me with the Rays when Edwin Jackson had a no-hitter several years ago, so Miggy's done it before.
Joe, how were your nerves in that last inning? Are you superstitious at all?
I'm not superstitious. It's just a matter of I'm just a little stitious. I watch The Office every night. It's just a matter of how does he just watching where he's at. I mean, I tell myself, let the game play itself. Just let the game play, and then you react to the game. You don't want to try to be too smart in that moment. So let it play. We had Ronnie warming up. We had Stropey in the 8th warming up, Ronnie in the 9th warming up, just to keep a number on Jake if it got to that point. You don't know. You never know. I mean, even pinch hitting Schwarber for Denorfia, who, obviously Dino's a better outfielder just based on experience, but I'm looking to add more runs. We had so many opportunities to score runs and did not. So you're always worried about that component of the game, too. So you're trying to cover everything. But fortunately, Jake covered everything for us.
How would you describe the atmosphere in your dugout in the final inning or two?
I thought there was a respectful buzz. Nobody was like too quiet. Nobody was too loud. It was good. I mean, our guys are really a closely knit group. Everybody knew what was going on except Justin Grimm. He had no idea it was a no-hitter even after the game was concluded. So otherwise, everybody was on board. That's true.
Not surprising.
Yes, again, for those that are around us every day, no big surprise, and that's what makes him such a good relief pitcher, too.
Just do one more thing.
Yeah, well, you need to talk to Jake.
This is kind of the blue ribbon for him. What's been an outstanding season. Talk about he's been terrific all year, and maybe doesn't get a lot of notoriety.
Well, I think it's he's starting to create more buzz around him. And we talked about him being all-star worthy at that particular part of the season. Again, the group that gets to see him, if you're in the NL Central, you see him often, you know what he's all about. I mean, Chicago's a pretty good media market, so you think the publicity's out there. But to do it tonight under these circumstances in this ballpark against this team with a pretty good audience, that should pretty much put him on everybody's radar. So I'm really proud of the guy. And again, it's all about him, his work, is spectacular. He's just different. He's just a different kind of an animal. He is.
You said this was Cy Young week.
Yep. So why not? Why not have him conclude it?
Joe, you managed,
maybe it's a harbinger.
You managed the Rays in 2010 when you guys were no-hit twice. What's it like to be on the losing end and to have that done twice on you in one season?
You know, honestly, I'm certain there's going to be no negative impact on the Dodgers. Zero. It's just another loss. It's a game, and that's what I've always tried to sell to my players. But hopefully on the other side, you get a little bit of a bounce, maybe among your pitchers at least, the players itself, just the team. We have our onesies trip back to Chicago, and they're all wearing onesies pajamas. So the plane should be rather raucous. We have a game tomorrow night. Everybody's reporting late. It's just, you know, to tap off, win the first one in San Francisco, win the last one here. Difficult road trip, tremendous competition. I'm really proud of our guys.
Thank you.
Yeah, talk to Jay. You got it.
Thank you.
That is Joe Maddon. Obviously, he knows what it's like to be no-hit because the Cubs were no-hit last month. The questioner didn't really know exactly what he was saying right there, but it is a question that seems like Tampa Bay has been no-hit a lot in recent years, and Joe was the manager for a number of years, and he just said it's one game, you shake it off. But I think the importance of this game, not only that Arrieta finally broke through with his great stuff to throw a no-hitter, but he ended a 4-game losing streak. This was a trip that was not going the way the Cubs had wanted. They were 1-4 on the trip going in, chance to pick up a game on the Giants, and so Arrieta, as good pitchers do, as aces do, found a way to stop the bleeding and get him back in the win column.
And that really is the big picture, and we're going to hear from Jake Arrieta in a little bit, and that'll probably be something he says more than once, because while this will be so great for him individually, to him it really has always been about the team. And you heard Joe Maddon talk about what a close-knit group this is. I see that day in and day out in the clubhouse, and I think a lot of guys are thrilled for him and thrilled for themselves as a whole that, yes, they broke out of that no 5-game skid. That's only happened once this season. They didn't need to go down that route. But for those of you just joining us, we're going to take a look at how this all unfolded for Jake Arrieta on a special night in Los Angeles. A packed house at Dodger Stadium in front of a national television audience as well. The ace righty would get an early lift from his offense. It's Chris Bryant up with a man aboard in the first, and the big righty puts a nice swing on this Alex Wood offering and deposits it into the left field stands. There, a 2-run blast for Bryant, his 7th homer of the month and 21st of the year, 2-0 Cubs. Then it's Arrieta's turn, and he comes out dealing start to finish. Racks up 3 strikeouts, 1 in each of the first 3 innings, including whiffs of Adrian Gonzalez and Jock Peterson. Arrieta just rolling along early. But in the third, Enrique Hernandez rips one towards second. Starlin Castro can't quite handle it. Hernandez reaches on the error. That's what it was.
Yeah, Mattingly thought it was a hit.
Yeah, he did say if it were up to him, it probably would have been a hit. But either way, he didn't want to take anything away from Arrieta, who you saw got Jimmy Rollins there with the nasty breaking ball. More from him in the 5th. Carl Crawford going down. Then Peterson whiffing for a second time. The youngin having no clue against Arrieta, who threw 5 unscathed. We move to the 6th. Rollins at first after a walk. Chase Utley makes good contact. This one deep to left. Warning track action, but that is an out, and Arrieta is now through 6. Still no hits allowed. Golden chance for the Cubs to add on for him here in the 7th. Bags packed with 1 out for Castro, who smokes one, but it's right to Utley for the 4-6-3 inning-ending double play. So no insurance from the Cubs. Bottom half we go. 2 down for Crawford, who lines one toward right center. Castro there making up for maybe the error and the hit earlier. Nice little leaping grab. Arrieta through 7 now. Still 2-0 in the 8th. Arrieta blowing one by Yasmani Grandal. Then Jock Peterson pops this one up, and Matt Caesar is right there. No trouble with the lights or the situation in that moment. So Arrieta has allowed no hits through 7 2/3 innings, which means let's flash back to June 30th of last year. Arrieta in the same point, 7 2/3, having not allowed a hit in Fenway Park until right there, the single to Stephen Drew. Arrieta received a standing ovation from the Fenway faithful upon leaving, and that brings us to tonight. 2 outs in the 8th in LA. Hernandez grounds one up the middle, but Addison Russell is there. The throw to Anthony Rizzo, and Jake Arrieta 3 outs away from a no-hitter. To the 9th. 98 pitches entering the inning. Justin Turner first up, and on the 1-2 pitch, Turner chases the breaking ball in the dirt. Miguel Montero throws him out. 1 down. Next up, Jimmy Rollins. Arrieta freezes him. 2-2 pitch, 11th strikeout on the night, a new season high. Arrieta 1 out away. Chase Utley at the dish.
And he's done it. He strikes out the side in the 9th inning. And Jake Arrieta has thrown his first career no-hitter.
So Arrieta strikes out the side, tosses his first career no-hitter, and the Cubs' first since Carlos Zambrano in Milwaukee, September 14th of 2008. Look at the celebration. Those guys gonna have a nice, happy flight in their PJs all the way back to Chicago. Cubs win 2-0. Arrieta makes history. We've been talking about his growth and just the dominance he's had this season, Mark. And I know hearing from him a little bit this year, he talked about the control of his fastball being the biggest difference from his days, if you will, in Baltimore, saying that from there, of course, he's been able to build all those secondary pitches that were so dynamite on this evening. And also mentioned the coaching staff. I know it sounds maybe silly a little bit, but sometimes you can be overcoached. And now he finally, I think, has a very nice comfort level with Chris Bosio there in his coaching.
Yeah, so many pitchers that have worked with Chris Bosio give him a lot of credit for helping them develop into consistent Major League starters. And even during Joe Maddon's press conference, you heard him reference the fact that when he managed the Rays, of course, he faced Jake Arrieta when he pitched with Baltimore, and he said he had trouble commanding his fastball. So he's seen the difference in the growth in Jake Arrieta from Baltimore to now with the Cubs, and Chris Bosio certainly deserves some of the credit for that.
He does. What a proud night he must be feeling in this instant. We're now going to bring in our Cubs pre- and post-host, David Kaplan, who I know is enjoying this evening.
In his footy pajamas.
In his footy pajamas. What do you think of Jake Arrieta, Cap?
I am in my Cubs footy pajamas. This was amazing. It was really cool to watch. They so desperately needed a victory. Forget the no-hitter for a second. They needed a win after the Giants lost to the Cardinals today. You have a chance to come back home, 5.5 up for that second wild card spot. This was a big victory, and he just went out and took the bull by the horns and was magnificent.
Hey, Cap, we've talked so much about the great stuff that Jake Arrieta has, but talk about, you know, his dedication to the game, you know, the fact that he accepts his role as the staff ace, the stopper of the team, ending that 4-game losing streak. This guy has really come a long way in terms of being a team leader and a guy who wants to be a focal point of a potential championship team. Yeah, no question, Mark. The thing is, in Baltimore, they saw this type of stuff. Clayton Kershaw did a great interview before the game with ESPN, and I watched it, and he said, look, we saw that guy in Baltimore, and he had some of the nastiest stuff we'd seen in all of baseball. He just had to put it together. He got out of Baltimore, where he had been the opening day starter, which is not an honor you give out lightly, struggled with command, comes to Chicago, and he and Chris Bosio click. And that's his guy. You saw the emotional embrace they had after the no-hitter was complete. That's his guy, and it's worked. And I'm already looking on Twitter. People are like, oh, my God, is he going to leave as a free agent? The Cubs control him for 2 more years. He's not a free agent until just before the 2018 season. So they'll talk long-term, I'm sure, but he's not going anywhere, folks. Just relax.
Just relax. Well, Cap, you mentioned that a couple more years. How much better can Jake Arrieta get? I mean, it seems like his consistency is clearly something he found tonight, a pinnacle of his entire work ethic towards the season. But what more can we expect from Jake Arrieta?
I mean, I think you're going to see these types of dominant performances. Doesn't mean he's going to get no-hitters, but this is a guy he's not throwing 86 and fooling people. He's throwing 95 to 97 with some of the filthiest, dirtiest sliders and curveballs that you see in the game. And Bert Blyleven was telling a friend of mine, because he saw Jake pitch this season, he said, look, we've seen a bunch of the great ones, Chris Sale and Felix Hernandez, just to name a couple. He said the toughest guy our hitters said they faced was Jake Arrieta. So take that for what it is.
Hey, Cap, this no-hitter was a lot different than the last one in Cubs history, with Carlos Zambrano pitching at Miller Park against the Houston Astros, who were the home team. I think Big Z was a really good pitcher in his time, but Big Z could never have the kind of stuff that we've seen from Jake Arrieta in the last couple of years.
No, he had really good stuff, Mark. If you think back to when 2004, 2005, 2006, he had really, really good stuff, and he was such a big man that he would throw the ball 96, 97. But this type of just unbelievable arsenal, this is the best stuff we've seen a Cubs pitcher have in a long, long time.
Well, Cap, you brought it up on your Sports Talk Live show just the other night. It's the question everybody's bringing up. Madden loves so much, that barroom conversation. You need one pitcher for one game. Who are you throwing?
I mean, if you're telling me that the way the season ends, everybody's available, I didn't have to use Jake Arrieta the last day to get in, everybody available, I'm starting Jake Arrieta. No question about it. And I think John Lester would tell you the same thing. Lester was signed for that moment. He's 4-0 in the World Series lifetime. He's a phenomenal postseason pitcher. But I think even he would tell you, you go with the hot hand. And right now, today, August 30, 2015, again, that could change in 30 days. Right now, today, Jake Arrieta by far is their number one guy.
Cap, I saw on Twitter you were borrowing the famous line from Aaron Rodgers telling Cub fans to relax because 4 straight losses cut the lead down to 4.5 entering action today. Now it's back to 5.5 with the Giants losing to San Francisco this afternoon. Big picture, how important was this performance by Arrieta in getting the Cubs back on track? Now they have the fun flight back to Chicago, get ready to host the Reds and play basically nothing but division games in September.
I mean, it was huge that they got a W. The no-hitter's great. It's a cherry on top of it. It makes it so much fun. People get jacked up about it as you head to September. But it's amazing. I was out with my son Brett earlier today. We went bowling this morning. And I bet you I had 20 people in our bowling league come up and go, this is it. They're swooning now. This is it. Season's over. They're good. They're going down. I'm telling you, that's how many people said that to me. And if you check my Twitter feed, a ton of them. It's over. The Cubs are falling apart. They're collapsing. I'm like, they lost to Bumgarner and Kershaw. You really need to just dial this back, relax, and know if Jake Arrieta had lost tonight, they were coming home 4.5 up. People need to chill.
Well, I'll tell you what, 14 straight quality starts, and a lot of people, Cap, were saying, well, you know, you got to give Arrieta the benefit of the doubt. Sooner or later, he's going to have a bad game. But Jake doesn't think that way. He thought this was my time to say, I'm the staff ace, I'm going to pick up my team, and I think that sends a great message for the future.
There's no question about it. He took the bull by the horns. He went out. He did his job tonight, and the Cubs come back 5.5 up in the wild card race. You know how Cub fans are. I'm one of them. You're one of them. I know how they are. They go out and lose to the Reds tomorrow, people will freak out again. They need to just enjoy the ride and see where this whole train goes.
And we should mention that game right here on Comcast SportsNet tomorrow night. The Cubs and the Reds.
Holly and I'll have post game for you.
Yes, and I'll be out there at Wrigley.
The Kaplan Hall will be all over it starting at 9 a.m.
Absolutely. Cap, thanks for joining us. I know you got to get some sleep. You got a radio show in the morning.
I won't be going to bed yet. No shot.
That is David Kaplan, our pre- and post-game live host. We thank you for joining us. Of course, we had Tyler Hollingsworth on earlier in the show.
Yeah, and Fergie Jenkins. And, you know, I thought Cap just brought up a pretty good point about what's left of the season here for the Cubs and fans, like keeping it all in perspective.
Right.
But essentially, this game, can it be one of those momentum pushers? I mean, for this last stretch, Madden's always made a big deal about how you get that second win in September as long as you're in the hunt, which this team clearly is. They won't need to rest or anything. But this had to have been a big one, I think. I mean,
well, there's no question about it, because remember, they won the game in San Francisco on Tuesday with Jake Arrieta on the mound. And at that point, they had a 7.5 game lead over the Giants, and people were thinking, well, at the very least, they have the second wild card spot. Now let's see if the Cubs can catch Pittsburgh and maybe even catch St. Louis. Well, of course, they're 9.5 games behind the Cardinals now, but it's just a situation where, you know, they had to regroup a little bit, and then you have Jake Arrieta on the mound trying to end that 4-game losing streak, and he pitched his best game of his career. And that shows you what a staff ace is all about when the team needs you the most, and then he does something like that.
And it's interesting because I remember at the beginning of the season, kind of when John Lester was brought in, the way Jake Arrieta handled himself in that moment was priceless, all pro, and he is at the podium right now. Let's hear from him, the man of the hour, Jake Arrieta, after his first career no-hitter.
A little tight. Little tight. Oh, man. Too much cleavage. What we got?
You came really close. How does it feel?
Well, you know, as the game wore on, I kind of try to use those past experiences to my advantage. Trying to stay calm and maintain the focus on just going out there and trying to execute quality pitch after quality pitch. And defense was really good behind me. Addy with a great play on a short hop that he had to charge, make an off-balance throw to first base. Castro made a good play on a line drive. Just all the way around, it was a very solid effort. You know, Chris gave us the lead we needed in the first inning, and I was able to, you know, make it hold up and finish it off. It's tough. It's tough to put that into words because you think about that all the time, and as a kid, and you see other guys around the league do it, and you want to be a part of something like that. So it's not only special for me and my family and friends, but for the organization, my teammates. My teammates embracing me after the game was extremely special. It's hard to put into words right now, but just hugging the guys, seeing how excited they were for what I was able to do, special, very special.
Jake, did your stuff, the level of your stuff, did it change at all during the game? I mean, from here it looked really sharp the whole way. Did you have to make any adjustments? And secondly, when did you become aware that, hey, I'm closing in on this? Or I can't...
my stuff was pretty crisp from the get-go in the first inning. Pre-game side was actually one of the worst I've had in a long time. But as I've matured and got a little older, I've developed an understanding that what happens in the pregame in the bullpen doesn't dictate anything, leading into the game. It's just a matter of getting loose, throwing the pitches, trying to get comfortable, execute a couple sequences you want, and then once you get in between the lines, just execute. That's the only focus. And that's kind of the mindset I carried over into the game. Stuff was crisp. The finish was good. Breaking balls were sharp. Didn't throw a lot of change-ups. And going into the game, that's something that I wanted to do a little bit more, but I felt like the life of my fastball was really good tonight. And I was able to get some good movement with it early in the game to where they weren't able to square it up. So, that was a big key for me tonight. Was able to use the heater when I needed to.
Was this something you've always wanted on your resume? Because you'll be forever next.
Well, it's something everybody wants. Like I said, every kid thinks about it. Little league, high school, college, minor leagues. You think about it. It's almost impossible not to, because everybody that plays this game wants to accomplish great things and pitch at a high level. So, yeah, I mean, it's something that I've wanted for a long time. I've been close on a couple occasions. Just fortunate. Everything aligned right tonight and was able to get it done. Well, I was asking Dan Herron and a couple guys in the clubhouse after the game. I was like, what were the last three? How did I get the last 3 outs? And it's just one of those things where everything happens so fast. The sequences are happening so quickly that, from time to time you have a hard time replaying how the outs were made. So, just after the Utley strikeout, just a little relief, excitement, waiting for my team, waiting for the teammates to mob me, waiting for the Gatorade bath, and that was a great feeling. It's just a really special night for the team. Yeah. Well, initially, I thought it was a hit. It was a tough play. It was a short hop. I think it was a cutter away. He hit pretty well. I thought it could have gone either way, and I really didn't even. I wasn't aware that it was an error until I think an inning or two later. It was kind of out of sight, out of mind, but even if it was a hit, I would have kept the same mindset. Try and finish the game. I knew my pitch count was manageable to finish that ball game. And in the eighth is when it really started to become a reality. Was making good pitches throughout the game. And I feel like I was making it difficult for them to square the ball up. And I never really focused on strikeouts, but if you're able to command the ball early in the count, spin some stuff, with some good movement, things are going to happen in your favor.
Jake, were you aware, as you said, you kind of became aware in the 8th, were you aware after the 8th the crowd kind of turned and started to get behind you and start to cheer every out you were getting there in the 9th, and everybody was standing for the last 3 outs? Did you feel that out there?
Yeah, I did. I think that's pretty common, whether it's the home team or the road team that's in a situation like that. I think baseball fans are really good at being aware of those type of situations and appreciating how rare it is for something like that to happen. So, whether it was all Cub fans or a mixture of Cubs and Dodger fans who were pulling for me, or us, we're very grateful that the fans were aware and on their feet and really enjoying the moment. And that's what I try and do, is just enjoy the moment, stay present, and try and take it all in. It's tough to do. First time doing something like this, so I don't really necessarily know how to feel. It's extremely exciting. It's fun to see, celebrate with my family on the field, my 2 kids, my wife, after the game. Something that doesn't happen very often. So, I'll try and reflect on this over the next several days, weeks, months, whatever the case is, but it's extremely gratifying. It's fun.
This is your first no-hitter on any level, even high school or any level, correct?
It is?
I'm asking you.
Maybe. This is the one. This is where it counts the most. So, whether I had one in Little League or not, it doesn't matter. This is the show, and it's rare to see something like this happen. I don't know how many no-hitters there are in baseball, but I know there's not that many. So it's just special to be a part of the group of guys who have done something like this.
Jake, as you look back, the trade to Chicago, for whatever reason, must have been the defining moment for your career as you look back at it.
Of course, yeah. I think it was approaching that period of time when I was with Baltimore that I knew things might happen, and they did. At the end of 2013, came over to this organization, was embraced by everybody. Everybody made me feel extremely welcome, and the comfort level was there from the get-go. And it was like a seamless transition. I came over here and started doing some things I knew I was capable of doing to help me be more consistent. And the momentum just continued to roll throughout the remainder of 2013 into 2014 and now this year. And I still think that overall I can continue to progress as well as everybody. Everybody here at this level has the same intention to learn from their failures, their successes, and try to be better moving forward. And that's what I'll continue to try and do.
You talked about the fans noticing them getting caught up in it towards the end of that. How did it feel, just the way they stuck around so long afterwards?
Like I said earlier, it's great to see fans, regardless of the side, appreciate these type of moments. Obviously, the Dodger fans want the Dodgers to win, but I remember my grandfather told me he got to see one of Nolan Ryan's no-hitters, and regardless of where his allegiance was, that's something he'll always remember and relish and really be grateful that he was a part of. So it's something that Dodger fans, Cubs fans will be able to tell their kids, their friends, their family about for years to come. So I think it's special in a certain way for everybody that was here.
Where was he living when he saw?
What's that?
Where was he living when he saw?
I'm pretty sure it was in Texas. So my family is from outside of Dallas, so I don't remember the exact which one it was. But,
We shot pajamas real quick.
Yeah.
Very nice. I'm glad they were able to zoom out on that. A one-of-a-kind night for Jake Arrieta and a one-of-a-kind onesie there. The mustache onesie. I bet he had to look long and hard for that.
Well, it's a Joe Madden gimmick. You know, he did it in Tampa Bay, and he reaches into his bag of tricks and probably thought, we're getting ready to head into September. I want to take some pressure off on the long flight back from Los Angeles.
My understanding, yes, my understanding was the whole theme behind the onesies and the pajamas was we're in need of sleep, so we're gonna get comfortable for this long 4 or 5 hour flight back from LA, and you can see a couple of the guys. I don't know that they will either, but Starlin Castro there sporting the Super Mario, I think it is, onesie, and you've got a couple other guys, Superman onesie, I like it, and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle. I'm not sure what Dexter Fowler's doing there in the middle, but he probably had something up his sleeve in the bags for later. He doesn't like to show any of that too much. He likes to kind of,
it's all about creature comfort. It's a long flight from Los Angeles. These guys are relaxed. The thing is, they got to play tomorrow night. They start a homestand. Every game is important. They'll host the Reds tomorrow night here on Comcast Sports.
Well, I'm glad they're having fun, and what an entertaining evening this one was. We are going to take a quick time out here, Mark and I, and when we come back, more on Jake Arrieta. Cubs analyst Jim Deshaies will be joining us. So please grab a Coke, some more popcorn, sit down, and come right back here.
SportsNet Central on Comcast SportsNet is presented to you by GMC. We are professional grade.
I thought you said you were going to test drive this Buick first.
I am test driving it for 24 hours.
Nice Buick. I guess the test drive last night went well.
Actually, I'm still on it. You know we're test driving this Buick for 24 hours, right?
Yeah.
So what are you doing?
Test washing it.
Oh, okay. Well, let me know when you're done. I'm going to take it test shopping.
Now get the best of remaining 2015s with cash back for 15% of the MSRP on select Enclave models in stock the longest. That's over $7,200 on this Buick Enclave.
Chicago seeing red as our division rivals hit town for the first of 3. With the wild card looming, can Chris Bryant and the Cubs keep the dream alive? Cubs, Reds, tomorrow at 7 on CSN.
When he has a 50-50 shot, the odds are 80-20 in his favor. He is the most interesting man in the world.
Stay thirsty, my friends.
Packed house, bottom of the 9th, 2 outs. Well, how about this moment for the kid?
Where did you find this place?
Online. You know, lowest cost, highest rated. I wish finding our new loan could be that easy.
Whoa, 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 whoa. It can. Just go to LendingTree.com, shop free loan offers in minutes.
What kind of loans?
You've got mortgage loans, personal loans, auto loans, polo, business loans, even credit cards.
This place has everything. Fish out of water!
Gotta go.
At LendingTree, shop and compare loan offers from top lenders, and in just 5 minutes, you can save thousands. LendingTree, the place to shop for money.
I'm really getting green out here.
Your old air conditioner is costing you money. The summer's heating up. Stay cool with a new air conditioner from Four Seasons. And right now, get a new energy-saving air conditioner from just $24.95 installed. Furnace and AC combos from just $36.95. Plus, enjoy 5 years interest-free financing. Call today for your free estimate on a new AC from Four Seasons.
For all the right reasons, call 866-4 Seasons.
Welcome back here to SportsNet Central, our GMC professional grade player of the night. A big shocker. We're going to go with Cubs ace Jake Arrieta, who threw his first career no-hitter. You know, it was tough. He had a lot of options tonight. Not. Jake's 14th straight quality start, and boy, what a fun one this was to watch. His teammates embracing him here at the end of the evening, start to finish. An incredible performance from Jake Arrieta, and it was just time coming, really. I mean, you saw it building up to this moment, and of something he just spoke to us or spoke to the media about, how even as a kid, this is something you dream of and you hope for. And I know one guy who probably did the same things would be Cubs analyst Jim Deshaies, who is joining us now. Jim, as a kid, did you dream of the no-hitter? I mean, Jake Arrieta tonight being able to pull off an incredible feat, really.
Absolutely. Anybody that ever pitches, that's on the bucket list. You hope to get a no-hitter, regardless of the level, and obviously to get one in the big leagues is a tremendous accomplishment. And you know, it's hard to predict a no-hitter on any given night. But if you had to, cherry pick a handful of pitchers in baseball who you think at the start of the year might pitch one before the year is out, Arrieta would have been very near the top of that list. He flirted with it a couple times last year. His stuff has been dominant, start in and start out, and he's a horse, so he can throw a lot of pitches. He can take the heat, whatever the elements bring. So this is a pretty special achievement.
Jim, the only thing that would have made this better would have been you and Len on the call. This game was originally supposed to be a Comcast SportsNet game. The network stole it for the national audience, so fans from coast to coast got a chance to watch Jake Arrieta's brilliance. You mentioned Jake's stuff. Obviously, when he was with Baltimore, people knew he had the outstanding stuff. It was a question of consistency and command of all his pitches. In watching him develop with Chris Bosio working with him as a Cub, what's been the key in Jake coming from a raw prospect to becoming really one of the best pitchers in all of baseball?
Yeah, and I think it was a change of scenery, obviously, and Chris is really good, but I think it was mostly just a change of scenery, a chance to clear his head and get a fresh start. And I talked to him about it a little bit last year, and he said that when he was in Baltimore, he did not want to be perceived as bullheaded. So anytime somebody came along with a suggestion, you should try this, you should try that, he would do it, and he was constantly tinkering. And then when he got here, he just kind of wiped the slate clean. He said, it's just going to be real simple with his mechanics. And, then he and Boz went to work, and he's been brilliant. I mean, the good thing is now that he's got this no-hitter under his belt, I think the baseball world at large is going to take notice, because he's been about as good as it gets for 2 years now.
I agree, Jim. It's funny, Jake, after this game in front of the media, admitted that he went to a couple of the other guys and said, can you tell me how I got those last 3 outs? I don't even remember how they unfolded. The game was moving so quickly at that point for him. And you were in a very similar situation, having taken a no-hitter into the 8th in your career. Explain what is going through a pitcher's mind at that moment.
Yeah, I think it's a cliche, but I think you're, quote unquote, in the zone where you're so locked in, pitch to pitch. Sometimes you forget what just happened. You just move on to the next guy, the next pitch, and you go through it, and you're kind of zoning out there. And you hear it a lot, especially with high leverage relievers. After a big drama-filled 9th inning, they'll come into the clubhouse and you'll start recanting the inning with them, and they'll say, "What'd you throw so and so?" And they're like, "I've got no idea. I just saw the fingers through the pitch," and they can't remember it. So I think that's where Jake was. He was just so locked in the now, and then all the emotions that come with closing it out. It's going to take a while and probably a chance to review some video before he realizes exactly what he did and how he got it done there in the 9th.
Yeah, he'll have a nice long flight back from LA to kind of look over this one and enjoy it, certainly. Well, Jim Deshaies will be back on the call tomorrow night right here on Comcast SportsNet as the Cubs take on the Reds. Jim, thank you so much for your time this evening.
Great to be with you guys. Absolutely.
Thanks, JD. Appreciate it. And we'll hear his call tomorrow night. All right, we've heard from starting pitchers. Now we're going to hear from a closer, a quirky left-hander, the conductor of the Big Blue Train. Yep. My own partner, Dan Plesac, in the on-deck circle. You don't want to miss what Dan's going to have to say about this stuff. We know he calls him Jake from State Farm. We'll see what Dan's wearing after the break.
A pitcher who can paint the corners is known as a Rembrandt. At GMC, we get why people love that kind of precision. After all, in everything we build, that's exactly what we deliver. This is precision. This is GMC. Now during the GMC Summer Sell Down, get cash back for 20% of the MSRP on select Sierra models in stock the longest. That's over $10,000 on this Sierra.
I believe in not just doing it yourself,
but doing it right.
I believe in paint and primer in one.
And coverage that covers.
I believe a smooth, durable finish isn't a luxury. It's a promise.
I believe nobody can paint this room better than me.
Which is why I believe.
I believe.
I believe in Pittsburgh Paints.
Don't just do it yourself, do it right. Pittsburgh Paints Grand Distinction. The best paint you'll ever buy or your money back. Guaranteed. Exclusively at Menards.
How should you choose a lawyer? Find the guy who wins. I'm Cliff Horowitz, and I've won the largest personal injury verdict in Illinois history. The largest. I've won the largest jury verdict for a back injury, the largest jury verdict for a brain injury, and the largest jury verdict for a neck injury. In fact, I've won every single case I've tried over the last 20 years. If you or someone you know has been seriously injured, call me, Cliff Horowitz at Horowitz & Associates. I'll get you the full justice you deserve.
Big top! Front drop! Get the Bob Rohrman Gurney Hyundai for our 3-ring circus of savings.
Right now, lease a brand new 2015 Hyundai Elantra for only $159 a month or get 0% for 66 months on select new models.
And we can beat any deal on a new Hyundai.
Bob Rohrman.
Bob Rohrman Gurney Hyundai on Grand Avenue, right across from Gurney Mills.
Weeknights, don't miss Sports Talk Live on Comcast SportsNet. David Kaplan leads a roundtable on the day's hottest topics, interviews Chicago's biggest stars, and interacts with you, the viewer. Sports Talk Live, presented by the all-new Chevy Silverado. Weeknights on Comcast SportsNet.
Chicago seeing red as our division rivals hit town for the first of 3. With the wild card looming, can Chris Bryant and the Cubs keep the dream alive? Cubs, Reds, tomorrow at 7 on CSN.
Jake Arrieta has thrown his first career no-hitter.
Boy, was that fun. Jake Arrieta threw 116 pitches, the 14th no-hitter in Cubs franchise history, and a guy that I know was enjoying every pitch was my old partner on Cubs pre and post. Danny and I did a season in 2006 we'd like to forget. It was Dusty Baker's last season. They were 66 and 96, but Dan made it fun every time we hit the post. Hey, Danny, I know that you're the king of Twitter. Every time Arrieta pitches, you talk about Jake from State Farm. What'd you think about your boy Jake from State Farm tonight?
Mark, you know, I went on record early in the year. We do these 30 teams in 30 days, and I visited 14 camps in Arizona in the Cactus League. And I left that camp, the Cubs camp. It was the most enthusiastic, positive camp. I've been doing these things for 6 years. And I left there thinking they're onto something special. And so when we were highlighting the team, they were asking what I liked. And I actually remember saying that I think this is the year that Jake Arrieta puts it together. And I think he's going to throw the National League's first no-hitter in 2015. His stuff is that good. And Mark, he was good from the first inning on, and he was overpowering in the ninth. He's a front-of-the-line rotation guy, and if they get into the playoffs, which it looks like they will, and if everything shakes out, they'll be playing in Pittsburgh in that wild card game. And if I'm Joe Madden, I'm giving the ball to Jake from State Farm and let him wear those khakis.
Well, he looked good in his onesie tonight, Dan, I'll tell you that much. But first of all, you get to rub shoulders with a lot of the national guys, and we right here in Chicago know what people are saying about Jake Arrieta. But do you think with tonight's performance, a lot more people out there are going to understand just how talented this guy is?
Kelly, listen, everybody that is in the know in baseball nationally knows the kind of stuff that Jake Arrieta has. This is the guy that the Orioles 5 years ago, they were building their starting rotation around Brian Mattis and Jake Arrieta. They thought these two guys were going to be the lefty-righty tandem that was going to get the Orioles back to the glory days. It didn't work out, and I'm not sure who should get the credit, Theo or Jed or whoever, that when they acquired about this trade, that Jake Arrieta was the guy they had to get because they found themselves an ace. And I really believe if they play in a wild card playing game, whether it's at Wrigley, whether it's at PNC, that guy's going to start that game because, Kelly, he's that good. He's one of the top 10 pitchers in either league right now in 2015. He's that good.
Dan, it's one thing to have great stuff, and going back to his Baltimore days, everyone knew that Jake Arrieta had great stuff. It's another thing to mature into being a staff ace. Now, the Cubs were in a delicate situation. They lost 4 in a row. You know, people starting to question, do they have the maturity to take themselves into the playoffs? Jake Arrieta steps up as the staff ace and no-hits the Dodgers. What does that say about his maturity and his ability to lead a young team?
He's come a long way in a short time, Mark. This is a guy 2.5 years ago that was a failed starter that was up and down in the bullpen, one good game, one bad game. I think a lot of credit goes to Joe Maddon, and I think more credit goes to Chris Bosio. You know, I played with Chris Bosio for 5 years in Milwaukee. The guy knows pitching inside and out. And I know there was a transition change, a managerial change, but I think it was the best thing that Theo and Jed did was keeping Chris Bosio as the pitching coach. He understands Jake. They get along well. And just a couple of days that I was in Arizona, I spent one full day at the Cubs camp. The relationship between Arrieta and Chris Bosio, it's back and forth, man. They can't have one without the other. Bosio just can't say enough good things about how hard Jake works, the work that he puts in, not only on the mound, but in the weight room, keeping himself in great shape. I think what it is